Yep, so sorry. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our session, Foodtech, bringing innovation to the table. Really, really honored to have Catherine and Marsela with us in this panel. My name is Kim, and if you have any questions along the way, just put it in the here below chat room, and then I'll try to address them as much as I can. But yeah, so I want to just dive into food tech as much as I can. You know, food tech, there's so many things to talk about, like from cloud kitchen, dark kitchen, to logistics, to food security, how it impacts our environment, and etc. And I know that people from Gojek or Kopi Kenangan will definitely be able to talk more about how technology has changed the way we view food and consume food today. So let me just dive into the questions and have like Catherine to talk about a bit about like our cloud kitchen and dark kitchens today, which is very common in the Western country, but you don't really see them now much in the Southeast Asia, but it's slowly rising. So I want to understand, like, do you see them like populating more and more, especially in places like Indonesia? And do you see like a positive future for such concept, and why?
Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for the question, and glad to be here as well. So yeah, for sure. So actually, in Indonesia, where we started our cloud kitchen concept in Gojek, we call it dapur bersama, which is in translation in English basically is like collective kitchen, because we realized as when we started with cloud kitchen or dark kitchen, people are confused what it is actually means. So we kind of like localize it, because essentially what cloud kitchen or dark kitchen as we know it is to allow especially a smaller or like growing merchant to be able to cater into the online demand more efficiently and more effectively. What do we mean by that? As we know, retail outlet is always very high on the capex, for example, very high on the rental. So when we are catering more into online users, such construct may not be required all the time. What do I mean by that? I mean, if it's in the offline business, you need like front street, like nice mall, big mall kind of a location. But then if you are catering into a online delivery, you can be on a like second level street, which will save you on the rental, save you on the cost, for example. But at the same time, we also think about more how we can serve the drivers more effectively as well. So what's important is it's easy to park, for example, easy to park in and out. They can just like jump off their motorcycle, queue, get out. So a lot of that is basically what we've been looking at, and it's picking up a lot. In Gojek alone, we have about 30 locations open in the less than 1 year, in the last less than 1 year. And then a lot more like merchant is taking advantage of it as well, especially with the COVID situation. A lot of mall closure time, mall have a limitation. So it's been doing well.
Yeah, I think you've actually addressed something that I've not really thought about logistics, like involving with dark, or cloud kitchens, or like you call it, kitchen bersama, dapur bersama. But for Marcella, what about your side? What is your view on this, knowing that you have a lot of retail outlet as well?
No, sure. Well, I think firstly, if we look at the landscape of cloud kitchen, right? Actually, there are more than one type of cloud kitchens, right? You can segment it differently. There is a cloud kitchen that offer only hardware, for example, which is the rental you subsidize, or they also provide software like labor for people for actually brand to utilize the cook, for example, right? There's also cloud kitchen that serve their own brand versus cloud kitchen that serve other people brand. So actually, there are various ways of doing cloud kitchen. When you're an aggregator, I believe like Gojek, when they have thousands of merchant, the concept of hardware and serving other brands totally makes sense. I think for Kopi Kenangan, it's quite different because we own the brand, right? So the way we see our cloud kitchen, we are actually also having several cloud kitchens with Gojek. In fact, but for a brand like Kopi Kenangan, or in China, if you look at a brand like Hai Di Lao, the way cloud kitchen works is actually it reduce the operational costs of producing a food, right? Maybe beverage doesn't need that, but once we launch into other adjacencies like food, there are some stuffs that need to be pre-processed, and cloud kitchen allow the same quality control and also lower cost to do that, right? So I think in a nutshell, cloud kitchen can work from either aggregator or small setups or even a setup of brand like Kopi Kenangan.
So I'm hearing a lot about like lowering cost right here, which is what tech was supposed to also be part of that role or responsibility as well in today's world. So I just want to understand in both Gojek and Kopi Kenangan, knowing that you are heavily invested into tech, how do you use tech to drive like certain decisions that revolves around your food business? Maybe we go with Catherine first.
Wow, there's a lot, right? If you think about it, to start with, like what you say, I think tech is enabler in that sense, enabling lowering the cost, like what you mentioned, but while maintaining the quality. But probably for today's purpose, what I would like to highlight how tech enabling kind of like people, right? I would like to highlight more how tech is enabling small businesses. What do I mean by that? Let's admit it, with the current COVID situation, we don't know. I mean, like how long this thing gonna last, and I'm sure it's gonna leave kind of a permanent changes to the way we are doing business and life as well, right? And then we have to admit that the segment of the market that got hit the most with the COVID is basically the small medium businesses, micro small medium businesses, because previously they can rely quite a bit on, for example, is a slightly older kind of like business owner. They are not so much into tech before, and they can rely more on the offline businesses. Suddenly this COVID pandemic hits them and they're like, whoa, what do I do about it, right? I mean, like the offline business got hit pretty tremendously. So this is where I think we try to use tech to help them. We try to use tech to empower such a segment to say that, hey, don't be afraid first. It can be done, right? If we can train 2 million driver to use smartphone, we also can enable the small micro business owner to use tech as well. So we created like these communities that's kind of like train a new business owner that needs to get into online, so they can maintain their business volume, right? Or at least to keep living in this challenging time. So I think that's what I really would like to highlight, that we are super privileged in that sense in this kind of half challenging time to allow us using a tech, using our platform to help such a situation.
I really like it when you talk about how tech, involves the community, and knowing that Gojek really brings in different community and sectors all together, and tech being an enabler. What about like for Kopi Kenangan? Because Kopi Kenangan is like a brand itself, right? So how does tech revolves like with a brand that is a standalone?
Yeah, well, I think when you talk about tech and a coffee chain, it seems weird, right? Because like, why does a coffee chain requires a lot of tech? Well, in fact, we're a brand that invests heavily in tech. We have our own engineering team in China and Indonesia, actually, a strong 30 people team. Well, firstly, the way I see the growth of a brand like Kopi Kenangan or any other food brands is, to be honest, firstly is by opening more locations. For example, we actually have a heat map to know where our demand is and to actually cater where we open location based on the demand. The second growth potential is existing stores, right? Essentially, as simple as you mentioned, Catherine, like COVID changed the whole thing. And what we do in Kopi Kenangan is we actually know, for example, a mobility data of how people actually move across different cities in Indonesia. Once we see things coming back, we really know what kind of stores we should push, what kind of promotion we should push, what kind of channel we should push. And thankfully, because of Gojek as well, it saves a certain part of our revenue because delivery becomes so important during this COVID situation, right? I think going forward, obviously tech will transform us into non-linear growth. We believe to hyper personalization in our consumer apps. So we have an app that people can do order ahead, and we exactly know what they order, how and when and where, and we will personalize our offering through that. And at the end of the day, maybe for any small business or even big brands like Kopi Kenangan, there are so many solutions right now that can help their back-end operation, from inventory management all the way to, for example, quality control. How do you monitor the people in the stores actually doing the work? based on what required, right? So I think it's transforming, and doing an offline to online business, probably Gojek is also the same. It's never been easy because it involves so many ecosystem, and the connection between offline to online is not as simple as just online platform.
I think listening like to both of you talk about tech is very admiring for me, because like what we're doing in Picha is so different, and we hope that tech can help us, enable us to do more, especially alleviating the refugee situation here as well. But I know both of you had talked a bit about the pandemic and how it actually changed your direction a bit. So I just want to dive deep into it. Like, I know the pandemic has been very difficult for a lot of people, whether it's small businesses and big businesses or individuals. So I just want to understand, in Gojek and Kopi Kenangan's standpoint, how did the pandemic hit this both companies? And then knowing that both companies also does like logistics and delivery, do you see an upward trend where people are doing more delivery, and do you see this being like this for a very long time? We'll go with Catherine first.
Sure. I think like what Sela mentioned, right? I think I'm always like very admiring what Kopi Kenangan does, because you can, I think, like breakthrough how to really use tech in brands, right? Which is, especially Indonesia, I don't think like it's been common before what Kopi Kenangan has done. But then again, coming back on the COVID, it changed everyone, right? It changed how we do a business. It's not just for the customer. It changed how the merchant run their business. It changed how the driver do their daily activities as well. Because the driver, at the end of the day, they have to be the one who's like still encountering, right, the face-to-face, which is, again, in this COVID situation, everyone is scared of that. So I think as an ecosystem, we have to look at it in a very holistic kind of view. From the customer, for example, within 2 weeks when the pandemic outbreak in Indonesia, we launched what is called contactless, cashless delivery. Because if you think about it, it's basically we try to minimize as much as possible the human interaction, as well as the movement of the physical money, right? Because the germ and all this kind of stuff. So we will launch that one. Thankfully, in our ecosystem, we have the GoPay as well. We did GoFood, GoPay, and so on and so forth. From the merchant, which is even more interesting on that, right? Unfortunately, again, coming back talking about, because GoFood right now, we have close to 500,000 merchants. And 96% of the 500,000 merchant that we have in our platform ecosystem is small, medium merchant. And most of them like micro, like mom and pop. Unfortunately, when the pandemic outbreak happened, customers tend to trust bigger brand more on their hygiene perception, safety perception. Understandable, right? Because they think that this bigger brand have a better SOP and so on and so forth. So you see during that time, even though the sales going up, but then most of it is going for the bigger brand, and then the mom and pop got impacted more again. So how we are using our platform to enable that, we are saying that, okay, now merchant, this is the 7th step, how you're doing the SOP to give a perception, right? So we enable kind of a hygiene sticker in our platform, for example, to give an assurance to the customer, hey, not just the big one, even the medium, the small one, they also have their health standard. So I think we have to contribute in our position during this challenging time, again, how we can ensure that people can continue on their business and livelihood. Same thing for the driver, right? At the end of the day, how do we make sure, help that our driver stay protected, stay safe as well? So we set up what they call Posko Aman. It's like safety kind of thousands of locations all over Indonesia for them to do their health checkup on a daily basis. They clean their motorcycle, and then they check temperature and so on and so forth. And then we build it through the platform, so we know which driver has been checked or not, something like that. But again, it's a whole shift. But I think we have to be responding. We have to see it as an opportunity, because again, we are categorized as essential service for a reason, because people need to eat, people need to drink. So we have to be adaptable and help the society as much as we can.
Understand. So I'll go into Kopi Kenangan. Is coffee an essential service, right? Like because not everyone drinks coffee, but most of people drink coffee. So how did Kopi Kenangan like go, face this whole pandemic?
Well, yeah, I think I'd really like the last point Catherine mentioned about, we should see this as an opportunity. I think firstly, because, it started in maybe early of the year and it's been 8 months and then people are like, oh, what's going on? How are we going to deal with this? But our approach has been, we really accept the situation and we pivot our way around it. And if you think about it, like, for example, Kopi Kenangan has 400 stores. The fixed asset investment is actually huge. We employ more than 2,500 people as our store persons, and we add more because we have store controller, traffic controller to make sure that social distancing takes in place, and then people actually take up the temperature, etc. So it probably 2,500 to 3,000 people right now. So it's a huge investment for us, and you can imagine any F&B brand right now, I believe, is experiencing a downward in revenue, of course. But we totally believe that our investment is for long term. Firstly, we don't fire anyone in our store operations. We make a commitment. We understand. We will figure out a way. We open more guest station stores, for example, or delivery friendly stores so we can move these people around, right? So secondly, for example, we also push together, for example, a lot of channel mix in our revenue to make sure that it gives more chances for delivery to take off. And also at the same time, Catherine mentioned about hygiene. I cannot relate even further. Like we literally launch not only a campaign. Anytime we do promotion, we have a real time people actually making sure all the operation can be done properly. So I think we need to change. The condition is going to be there, so we are the ones that need to change. And I believe for even smaller brands, as Catherine mentioned, it'll still going to be tough, especially for F&B. But I do believe that the opportunity for a platform like Gojek or Instagram that actually give to people is just this democratizing customer acquisition. So to me, that is beautiful, and I think it will definitely help us a lot on this. Yeah.
Right. So we only have like 2.5 minutes left, but I really have two more questions. I don't want to ignore the audience's questions. So here is one. When we talk about like food tech, just now we also talk a lot about like food delivery and food app. But how can you see tech like further be integrated into the food industry? So Catherine.
So I'm gonna start first.
Yeah.
Is it because it's a difficult question?
No, I feel that I keep starting first.
Okay, you got 30 seconds to answer.
No, you mean how tech can be further integrating? Well, I think it's
because we were talking about food delivery and food app, right? But what other ways do you see it integrating?
well, firstly, I think at the end of the day, for any business, sales is what matters the most, right? So I think, as I mentioned, like basically the distribution will become so much lower. Like for example, I'm not only mentioning about food, but food FMCG. If you want to enter a supermarket or CVS, you require a certain amount of capital. You require a certain amount of quantity. It is not the case right now. There's GoFood, there's Instagram, anything, right? So first is distribution. Secondly, I would say it's also funding available. You can always look at any fintech available giving funding to our merchant that is previously untouched by banking, right? And maybe thirdly, I would say human capital is super important for any food business. And I believe there are so many startups that actually start doing that kind of recruitment for this business. So I would say end to end from revenue to cost, you can mention how tech can be integrated essentially. Yeah.
Do you have anything to add on, Catherine?
No, I think for me is that another theme that I look at how the tech, and not just tech, like to be more specific, like the machine learning and stuff that's going to be like even more important at this point is how we can personalize things better for our customer, for our merchant, right? Because again, at the end of the day, it's a market size of one if you think about it, right? So in that sense, I think that's another trend as well, and necessity, not just trend, in my opinion, a necessity as we are expanding our businesses. We have to start. The more we expand the business, we have to look at it even more granular, right? How we are serving the market. I think that's another one that I can add on.
Yeah, I think this really sums up really well as we talk about how tech further bring us to a different future in terms of food. So thank you so much, Catherine and Marsela, for doing this. I'll pass the mic back to the host. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, everyone.